Sure.
Recording started.
All right. Okay. Thank you all for coming today. So I'm Alex Shirosky, and I'm here today to share my kind of humble beginnings with online teaching and what we do both in a course I teach for Moorpark College here in California, but also a course I do at Mesa Community College at Red Mountain. So that's where I am now in Arizona. And so this course, there's a few unique aspects about it that I wanted to share. And so what one of the things that we'll be looking at today is, again, kind of my background, how I got started with things, and also kind of how the course itself works. So I teach in life sciences, human anatomy and physiology, and so we're all from different backgrounds, and so I want to get you guys oriented to the course itself before we jump into how it works in an online environment. And then mainly, one of my main resources for the course is what was once called Elluminate, which is now called Blackboard Collaborate, and show you how that is a tool in a couple of my classes. And then also, I'm hoping to, much like my class, get a little actual information out to you guys in terms of maybe you can learn something about how your muscles contract today, maybe a bonus feature for you guys today. And then looking at the different ways that I have the course offered at my college and how the students are performing in each and how their impressions of it and things like that, and really kind of see how well it's working for them or not working for them, and then talk to you guys about what you're doing and how my courses might be improved and what things you have to share as well. And to that end, I would say anytime, to be sure, during the talk today, if you guys have questions and comments and suggestions and anything like that, please do jump in. We are transmitting this as well through CCC Confer, and so if I don't remember to repeat your question into the microphone up here, I'll try to give me a signal so that those people that are logged on online, as you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, will have an idea about what we're discussing here. And those people that are online, certainly if you guys have any input, you can type it into the chat area in the lower left-hand corner there. You can see an area to submit your chat, and we'll try to address those as well as they come up. And if it doesn't seem like I'm noticing your chat, in the underneath where the participants are, you can see that there's a little hand marker there with a green arrow. You can raise your hand and it'll give us a little indication that you have a question or a comment. And there's some emoticons there too. So you can see Emily is happy enough to be clapping that we're giving them that opportunity. So we certainly appreciate your input. That's good for us to know that you guys are out there. Okay, so my personal background is that I started teaching at Moorpark College in Southern California in 2004 as a full-time faculty member there, and in 2005 I was part of what they called the MEET program, which was a grant program through the Community Colleges of California to support, as the acronym indicates, modeling effective educational technology. So CCC Confer uses this kind of web conferencing interactive software, and they're trying to really get it out there in terms of what it can be used for students and for faculty members, etc. And so they're just looking for unique ideas on how it could be used. And so at the time, what I did is I submitted an idea that really adjunct faculty members are coming from all over the place. They have students at the community college that are all over the place, and they really don't have a physical space to meet with their students and answer questions and do those types of things. And so that was the idea for my project, is really use Elluminate and CCC Confer for that and get the word out there to adjuncts that this is a free resource for them that they could utilize and stay in touch with their students and have their students stay in touch with each other. So that kind of led into, a year later, my development of an online version of a human physiology course that Moorpark offers. Usually in the sciences, the difficult part of converting a class to an online format is not the lecture part of it, but the lab part of it, right? The hands-on part of it. And interestingly enough, at Moorpark College, a lot of what they do for their physiology labs are computer simulations of different types of experiments. So once upon a time, if you were taking a biology class and you wanted to learn about muscle contraction, you'd be pissing a frog and you'd be actually utilizing their gastrocnemius muscle, their calf muscle, and zapping it and seeing it contract and things like that. And now what you can do is you can run a computer simulation of that where no animals are harmed and potentially learn the same types of things. And so the lab was already set up, in essence, in an online format. Students were coming into the lab and doing it together on a laptop. And I said, well, the work's already been done for me. Then, the lab has already been converted. So that's when I kind of made the online physiology course for Moorpark, and I've been teaching it for them ever since. And there's a few sections of it that we do each semester. In 2000 and shortly thereafter, actually, in fall 2006, I went over to Mesa, and I started a online class there. And this one's an introductory human anatomy and physiology course. And so that's what I've been working on most recently at the college where I am now. And so those are some of the classes that I'll be talking about today. So one of the things I wanted to do at the onset was, again, give you an idea about how the course and the mechanics work, and then we can talk about how it works in the online format and how that may be similar or different to what you do, and kind of do some sharing about the technology and utilizing it as a resource. So typical type of thing laid out in a course management system. This is what it once was in terms of Blackboard and WebCT. Moorpark has changed recently, but all the resources are available from the home page here. There's both lecture and lab components available to them in the online format, and I'll talk about how those work. And we already know how the lab works. We'll talk about how the lecture works, and it works similarly in the class that I do now. There's also discussion boards where the students are encouraged through points to submit questions and answers for each of the different topics or modules that we're addressing each week. So it's certainly a way to try to encourage them to interact and get that tribal learning going, talk about how things are going with the class, what things they're learning, and explain things to each other. And I try to have that as a resource for them so that they can get that from each other. And I try to stop in there once in a while to make sure that things aren't being taught there, if you will, that are erroneous. But for the most part, I have that as more of a student resource, a peer-to-peer resource instead. So the way that the lecture material works is it's kind of in two ways. On a kind of rotating scale or a schedule, I will create new lectures using CCC Confer, where everybody gets online at a particular time, like twice a week. And we do a PowerPoint type of lecture through CCC Confer, where they are, where I'm going through the material and they're talking to me about it and things like that. And that's certainly one of the things that we find in science, where it's a little bit more difficult than maybe some of the other disciplines to really kind of get into some of those more creative aspects of it and things like that, because the people who are taking a human physiology course at Moorpark are really taking it as a core content for health sciences. So these are people that are becoming nurses and physical therapists and radiological technicians and things like that. And while we want them to access and utilize and learn the material in various different ways as much as possible, there's also certainly a lot of core content that they need to come out with. Right, so it's always going to be a balance, as with many of your classes, to, do we spend a lot of time on one particular thing, and they really, drill down into it and really know that one thing well, and then the rest of it they're kind of on their own and hopefully they get it? Or do we kind of meter it out and say, okay, well, we're going to try to get you as much information as we can about all these things and get creative with it as much as we can. So it's certainly something that I've wrestled with, and that many of you, I'm sure, do also. online. And so this was using some software called SoftChalk, where this is, for instance, a model of the digestive system that you see on the right-hand side here. And this is kind of a drag and drop exercise. So we're learning the anatomical parts, the organs that contribute to the digestive system. And so what they need to do is drag and drop the different organs to label them. And so they're doing work in a lab manual that's assigned to them, but they're also doing these quote-unquote lab activities with the materials from the lab directly. And then afterwards, basically they have weekly lab quizzes that utilize the same models, but it's more of a short answer type of thing. So, here's different blood vessels that they need to know, name blood vessel A, what's B and stuff like that. And so in that way, it's still based on the same type of lab material and gives them that experience that may be similar to their counterparts that they have on campus. Now in terms of lecture, for this one, for the fully online one, what we have is recorded lectures that are done with Camtasia. So screen capture software that I've created at home and I put them up on iTunes U. So for the online class where the students need a bit more flexibility, then what they can do is they can have those resources available to them at any time. So they can jump ahead and they can go back. And so it's a bit more of a flexible schedule for their busy lives that they have, especially at the community college level. So they're stored on iTunes U, and they're all available throughout the semester. And so it's, same type of thing, get talking head in there, get annotation, much like you would do if you were doing a PowerPoint presentation in class. Now, of course, the shortcoming there for archive types of things is that you miss the direct interaction. I got a question, I don't understand, what's the esophagus there? I don't get it. Is that just a line? Is it an organ? Where does it go? Whatever. So that's why anytime I have the online class where they're getting that flexibility, then I try to give them some sessions where they're live and online. So office hours that I'm actually logged into CCC Confer where they can come and meet me, and I can throw up those same slides there and we can go through it. Okay, you didn't understand digestive system. Okay, so let's look at this slide and let's go through it together right now. Same thing, archive for later, because you guys probably know there's one person that asks a question in the class, there's probably another 5 that are thinking the same thing and just don't want to ask it. So the archive function for all of CCC Confer or Blackboard Collaborate is certainly very key, at least in mine, so that we create these resources that are reusable to me and also to the students. Okay, so that's for the online class. So that's the one that they need full flexibility. Now the hybrid class I think is the one that is a little bit more unique because it gives us some options for the students. So this one's actually conducted on campus. And so we have a newer building where I am at Mesa Community College, and I was lucky enough to be on the building committee and have the ability to guide, if you will, the building process a little bit. And so we have a number of classrooms in our building that are, you call them web enhanced. So we've got motion tracking cameras in the back of them. We've got a lot of resources, much like here at the teaching station, that really allow you to do a lot more in the classroom. And so when I'm teaching the hybrid class, I'm doing it live in one of these rooms. And so the students who are enrolled in the class have, in essence, 3 options, right? So they can come to campus and be just like you are right here in the classroom with me. At the same time, much like the people online are, they can be logged in online and be hearing it live, asking questions live, etc. Now usually, we don't see it here, but usually I've got the live video feed as well. So as I'm doing my dog and pony show up here and trying to help make it, interesting and things like that, they're actually able to get that at home. So it takes it a step above, I think, just the normal screen capture, hearing the voice and seeing just a little floating head or something like that. You get more of really the face-to-face experience. And that was one of the things when I got into online teaching is, I was kind of skeptical, like I think many still are, in terms of how can this be as good as talking to somebody right there and really gauging if they're getting it and what their response is, etc. And so once I started to see these types of resources, like with Elluminate or Blackboard Collaborate, I saw various ways to be able to kind of engage them and have them right there with you in at least certain ways. So having them live on campus and live online gave us 2 options. Now certainly for the hybrid class, they're encouraged to be there live every time, and I'm taking roll and I want them there and present. Otherwise, if you just want to view the archive online, that's not really what this class is about. That one, you should enroll in the online one. I need full flexibility. I'm independent. I can handle this. I just want to ask you questions when I need you. Otherwise, I got it, right? So these people in this class really needed to be there either online, like we see there, or in class. And the archives in this case were really there for review and things like that. So this is the type of thing, and this is kind of just showing you, like picture in a picture, looking in mirrors going back. But this is showing you more similar to what I do in the classroom. So there's me in the front of our classroom. You can see how the PowerPoint, or at least the CC Convert or the Elluminate is being projected up at the board. And despite what you see here, there are actually students in the classroom. It's a 48 capacity classroom, and that's the thing that you get, right? If you're offering this option, you can be online or you can be in-house. You never know who's going to be physically with you. And so the first time they offered this class, I was actually pretty worried that it was going to be me and like one student, everybody else online, and I'm doing all this dog and pony show to nobody. People are walking down the hall and looking in and seeing, wondering what I'm doing. So the ratio, really, I would usually get, for the hybrid class, about 2/3 of the people would attend in class live every time. And then about 1/3 of the class would be online attending live. So that ended up being a pretty good ratio so that you could really get the interactions, but they give them some flexibility. So, whatever, they were sick, they could still attend live online and be in class. They could be in bed in their pajamas, and we sometimes make fun of them, as they probably are. Yeah?
So do they sign up for the hybrid class, which is a full-length class, or do they sign up for a combination class? They sign up for a hybrid class or a full-length with the understanding that they can come when it is convenient?
So so when they sign up for the hybrid class, and this has certainly been one thing, as our speaker this morning was talking about, you guys out here are cutting-edge people, and you usually have to blaze that trail for your college or your institution and say, I'm trying to do this, I need students to understand. So when I list this in the schedule of classes, there's a paragraph under there that kind of explains to them what they need to do. So they're expected to be in class 2 days a week for the 3 hours of lecture time, whether it's live online or physically in class. And then, so it's a full-length class, the full 16 weeks, and they're expected to be, for lecture part of it, in live and attending either in-house or long-term. Does that answer your question? Okay. So Emily was asking, in a sense that students know what they're getting into when they sign up for either option. That's certainly a good question. I try to throw that out there, number one, when they're signing up for the class. That's the other thing that the class listing says. It says, this class has online components. You need to, number one, check out the distance education website of the college and see really what that entails. And number two, you need to email me and ask me and let me give you detailed information about how this course runs. Because there's still a chunk of people that are going, oh, it's an online class, like some of the, I saw, in one of the talks earlier, or at the very beginning of the day, the common posts or whatever of students, and they're saying, oh, I thought online was supposed to be easier. It's supposed to be flexible. It's not easier. It's more on your shoulders as a student to get everything done and to really monitor that. And so I try to get it out to them before they sign up, but on the very first day, besides, as I was just coming from a session, saying hi and being friendly and trying to engage them, I try to let them know from that point what they need to expect and how to try to organize themselves so that they don't get lost during this online course. Because the thing that I tell them is, the same, if you will, slack that you have in an online course, the looseness in terms of the schedule, etc., is the same slack, if you're thinking of a rope analogy, that students end up hanging themselves with continually, right? Because the analogy I use is like a gym membership, right? They sign up for the gym, right, usually after the first of the year, and they're thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the gym every day. It's 24-hour fitness. I'll be there any time of the day. I'll be there all the time, right? And then all their other things that have a tight schedule take precedence, right? Oh, I had to go to work, and I had to do these family things, and I had to do this in my other classes, and oops, I didn't get to the gym again. Well, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, well, if it's an online class, maybe tomorrow with regular milestones and deadlines doesn't work. So you've got to make sure that you create whatever schedule you need, put it into your schedule, but make it a regular habit so that you can say, okay, it's 8 p.m. on Saturday. if that's your schedule, I need to be doing my lab for my anatomy and physiology class, so that at least you incorporate that into all the other things that you have to do in your life. So there's so many things about the Blackboard Collaborate that really make it kind of interactive. I mean, you can see, we've already seen our dialogue with some of our online people like Emily, but there's a lot of different tools here besides being able to point things out and kind of circling things, all the things that you would do in class. There's a lot of different resources that you can use as well. So you can go to websites, and we're going to do that, and you can show videos. And so it's not just, here's the PowerPoint. You're able to bring in a lot of different things, even guest speakers or whatever. They can take over the mic, and they can take over the camera, and they can talk to your class. Like if I have a content expert for something, he's an X-ray technician, he can come in and do a guest lecture from wherever he is, from wherever his office is, etc. So it really, I think, heightens it to a level that this class is going to give people a lot of what they need, and not just be, what was historically known as a correspondence course. So like I said, with the online component, though, with that kind of disconnect, I try to, as much as possible, bring in connections for them. So I do the live online office hours as well. And so, like I said, that's the time where we can review for the exam, or we can bring up those content slides again, things that they are confused about. We can have students actually be asking each other questions in the chat area and with me. They can actually grab hold of the mic and ask questions by audio if that's the way we want to do it as well. And so it helps to bring in those connections, because that's what we lose in the online environment, is they feel isolated and things like that. They feel that disconnect. So I try to bring that in as I can. Yeah?
I just wonder what the attendance, is for those online meetings. I've tried them and they don't work. And, so how do you inspire students to attend them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I've had varied experience with that as well. I would say for this course, and you and I were talking about it at lunch, right? This course is so diverse in terms of the students, right? There are students there that are just taking it for a lab science class, and they're an English major, or they're a art major or something like that, and their associate says that they have to take a science class. That's their whole reason. I need a letter grade to check that box. That's me. The other people are actually there, and they understand that it's core content. I need to know about the body so that I can do my job or career or program that I'm going into. So for online office hours, live online office hours in this course, in the non-majors course, I would say, for a 24 person class, I'll get 5 or 6 on a regular basis that are coming in and asking questions, and we're going through things and things like that. But again, archive it, and I don't have a good way. I haven't talked to CCC Confer people lately about this, but it'd be interesting to be able to track and see how many times the archives are actually accessed.
I can tell you.
And so Donna, yeah?
There is a new feature in Confer that allows you to pull your reports when students log in through. You have to go in through the Confer website to gather the data. You're able to pull a report of how many were in your live session and your archive session. It'll give you name, email, date, and duration that they were in there.
Right, because they have to log in. Even when they're doing the archive, they actually have to log in with a particular name and stuff like that.
So as long as you're directing them through the Confer website, that data is gathered, and you've got it now without having to beg us and
right. That's great. Because it gets expensive with chocolate and things like that for you ladies. So I mean, there's some information there. With that renewable, if you will, resource, you might be getting more benefit from it than you actually know, and it's something to look into. Now, I have to say, though, with my other class, with the Morpart class that I still teach from Arizona, when they have the core lecture content online and we're having our weekly discussion sections, for a 24, 30-person class, I'm pulling probably 2/3 of the class to the discussion sections or office hours each week. So it's a much higher content, and I think, I'm really ascribing that more to the students, that they really want that information and they understand the importance of it, and so I think that they're digging their heels in a little bit more into their education, saying, I really need this, so I need to stop everything else.
That's the pre-health population, the Morpart one.
Right.
So I think a lot of those are pre-nursing, and they need that ARB in the point system.
Yeah.
Highly motivated.
Yeah.
You have them captain. They'll do whatever you say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we really benefit from that. And it's just nothing that we do. It's just we're lucky that motivation and trying to do the show to make them really track you is kind of done for you. So yeah, I think so too. So there's another question that says, it seems like setting student expectations is very important. How do you set these expectations besides the syllabus? So are you talking about, Ms. or Miss, yes, are you talking about expectations in terms of what they need to, how they need to perform in the course during the semester and assessments and points and things like that? So the syllabus, I certainly do have the syllabus and go through the syllabus and orient everybody to the class. So I try to, on the first day, even for the online students, I have them come into the classroom. So that's their other time that they actually have to shower and things like that. And I say, okay, let's go through it. Let's think about this on a weekly basis. I got to do my anatomy and physiology lecture. Where do I find my lecture? How do I get to it? How am I going to be tested on it? Now, where's my lab and things like that? So I step them through it and I say, okay, here's iTunes. You're going to go through here and here's your lecture. You're going to go get your lecture notes over here from the learning management system. And so we go through it on a step-by-step basis, and they know when those assessments are coming through. I try to make it very obvious in the learning management system in terms of announcements and calendar and things like that this is coming up. There's a lab quiz coming up and things like that. So I try to do it a lot from the onset and then constant reminders and make it obvious to them that these things are coming up. Because like I said, that same type of thing in terms of Slack, I just get kind of concerned about that. Online classes are notorious for having the low retention rates, and so I do all that I can to try to help out with that. Okay, so what I wanted to do was to give you guys a little bit of an idea about how these things work online as well. And so should have actually put this in a different way. So I forgot that I couldn't cut and paste from there. But with this, what I've tried to do is also, like I said, use some of those really key resources to enhance their experience in terms of the content that we're putting out. Did those videos load? Do you know? The ones that you were loading up?
Only one of them did, and then when it crashed, the other, no. So the bottom line is done.
So neither one is up there? Okay.
I have one.
You have one?
I have one.
What's the name of that one?
That one is OTC _ sliding _ actors
Okay.
_ video.mp4.
Got it. All right. I'll utilize that one next. Okay. All right. So let me.
So let me try and play the one that I do have uploaded.
I'll come to that one next. So, so this one was kind of going through what we call the sliding filament mechanism of muscle contraction. And so a lot of times when we're doing anatomy and physiology, it's really difficult for them to go down to a level where it's beyond what we call the macroscopic, big things that they can see, like bones and muscles and things like that. Because in order to understand how the body works, we've got to get down to the cellular level. Because it's the cells, like the muscle cells that are contracting, that allow the muscles to contract, that allow your system to do its job, etc. And so I try to use various types of resources to, allow them to kind of zoom into that and then bring out of it. And many of you may be familiar with Prezi, and Prezi is kind of the newer, more active or dynamic type of PowerPoint teaching tool, where you're going to have it all laid out on a screen so you can see the big picture, but then you're kind of zooming into individual slides or individual movies like YouTube and things like that. And so it makes it a bit more dynamic, and it works really well for anatomy and physiology, where we're constantly doing it, like going down to that molecular or cellular level and then coming out again to look at the big picture. And you can certainly, if things are working, use that within CCC Confer or Collaborate as well, because you can go into a browser or you can go into other types of software and utilize those things. And so it makes it a little bit more dynamic that way. So I try to bring those things in. This one here is also another way that I was trying to bring in some other content into the course. Now this one here is a movie that I made. I used some screen capture software to create the movie, but this would basically be in the archive so they can see it, and also in the live session. So let's see if we can bring this up so I can show you one of the activities, learning activities that we were doing in class here. So for those of you at home, this is a QuickTime movie file. So if you have QuickTime, which hopefully most people do, you'll see a separate window showing up, and it should be playing through that. Let's increase our volume. That way, but I also want to give you an overview part of muscular system, because he kept saying that the muscular system, so yeah, nice. So,
That's fine, yeah.
okay. So at least when we looked at that, what we can see is there is a way to kind of engage the students both in-house and online and give them a bit more of that experience where we can kind of get them utilizing the information and get them thinking about it, and in some cases physically get them up. And so oftentimes with that activity where I have the students acting out the different parts of the muscle filament that are interacting when you actually contract a muscle, sometimes what I'll do is say, okay, online students, tell me where the myosin filament, what's supposed to happen with the myosin filament now? Tell these actors up here what to do next. Here's the calcium person. Where is that person supposed to go? And they can type it in and ask it and things like that. So, like I said, it's just another way that I try to have these students get engaged that way, using the tools that we have. Okay, so to finish up, what I want to do is look at the comparison of the online class and the hybrid class. And so is it significant in terms of the way that this class is delivered and the student learning and how they feel about it? So what you're going to see in a couple of these graphs are going to be the comparisons between the two different delivery formats. Okay, so what we see here is in red is the hybrid course, in blue is the online. Semesters on the x-axis here, so we start with spring 2009 going up to just this past spring that we finished up. And then on the y-axis here is percent. And so what we're looking at here is overall or average grade, grading the course when they get done. Lines are going to be standard deviation, and then this one right here is overall, so all the different semesters average with the two different formats. And so when we look at the overall, in the first two I wasn't doing a hybrid, so that's why we see the red bar missing there. But when we look at the pattern overall, number one, if we look at the average, I think the average is, about 77, 78% or something like that. Fairly decent in terms of their performance on the different exams and the labs and the quizzes and things like that. On par with face-to-face classes, particularly for science classes, to be sure. If you look at between them as well, there doesn't seem to be any significant difference between the online or the hybrid format. So it looks like in terms of that assessment and how they are performing that outcome, they seem to be doing pretty well between the two formats. Now this is an interesting one too. So now in this graph, again we're seeing semester along the x-axis, but now we're looking at student retention between the hybrid and the online course. Now here, if we look at the overall average between the two, there's a lot of variability in there between the online retention and the hybrid retention. Now remember, hybrid people I'm seeing twice a week in-house, or at least I'm seeing them online. They're live with me. I know when they're there, I know when they're not. I'm checking in with them and things like that. And if we look at the differences here, there's no significant difference between retention and the two. Not sure about the dinging there. Is anybody getting that dinging? I kind of. Oh, the truck. Okay, so I just want to make sure it wasn't me annoying you. Okay, in that way. I might be annoying you in other ways. Hopefully not. So, but you look at this and you see some variability. I mean, just look at spring 10 and fall 10 between hybrid and online, right? Here we see hybrid, only about 30% retention in that particular semester, right? You look at the next semester, it's reversed. You look at another semester, we've got 75 or greater than 80% student retention in the class. And this is a hard class. This is a hard lab-based science class where we typically get, at the end of the semester, maybe 60 to 70% retention, even in an in-house one like this, okay? So when looking at that, that says to me, again, that our different formats are doing fairly well, at least comparable to our in-house. And that it also says to me that there is certainly, as much as we do as instructors to do our best to get information out there and make it engaging and things like that, a lot of it's going to be based on the students themselves, right? There's only so much that we can do. Students are going to do what they're going to do and be as successful as they can based on what's going on with them. So there's a lot of variability in there too. Okay, so now what I want to do is in spring 2010, we did a survey of the two classes to try to get their impressions of what was going on in the class and how well it was working for them and who they were and things like that. Okay? So let's take a look at comparing these two classes. Okay? So common age range was younger, right? 18 to 25, and these were the range categories, so we don't have specific numbers there. But the age range was still your, common community college or college level age range, first couple years after graduating high school. So those are the people that we're getting in both the online and the hybrid. Sex ratios were skewed towards female significantly in both cases. Now, you got to take that with a grain of salt, in that, these are health science courses, so maybe, you're having a skew there as well, because those are the people that are interested in it or something like that. But we didn't see much of a difference between the full online and the hybrid. So if you're looking at it in terms of technology, there doesn't seem to be too much of a difference. So online people are kind of reflecting the same pattern as the hybrid. Ethnic group, mostly Caucasian, some Asian, Hispanic there too. That probably has to do more with our college demographic as opposed to the course itself. As you would imagine, most of these people own a computer, although, has anybody gotten anybody in their class where they're taking online class and they're like, I don't have a computer? I don't know. It's like self-selective or something, right? That's the first step, is admitting you have a problem. And the problem is you don't have a computer. But at least in these courses, 100% have a computer. But look at this. This is something that we asked them that was also very interesting. Average number of electronic devices, 2 to 3 electronic devices. This is iPad, iPhone, tablet, things like that. These students have 2 or 3 of those each, in addition to their computer. So these students are hooked in. Now, I can't say that that would be different from people that are, in-house taking a regular class. Maybe it would be the same. But if you look at the online students, they tend to have more as well. So they may be, as you might expect, a little bit more techy. In terms of number of college semesters enrolled previously, how experienced are they? They've usually had a few semesters of college previous to going into this online class, which for online instructors is generally a good thing, because in an online format, there's all kinds of different stumbling blocks that you can run into, but experience in the online world is certainly one of them. Community college, we were looking at first to attend college in your family, yes. Previous science classes, that's one of the things we were looking into in case that was a stumbling block. If you look at this as well, working. 85% of the hybrid students were working, 100% of the online students were working. So, but if you look at the number of hours, the online students were actually working less. So maybe they are more, older students with, or at least students with more families and more responsibilities at home or something like that. So they're still working a lot, but they seem to be working less. So that's something that we're kind of looking at exploring in the future. I put an ad in there because I'm a marine biologist actually by trade, and that's a stargazer fish, and sometimes you get tired of looking at graphs and tables, but we're going to skip through that. Okay, so here's some other interesting things as we're kind of wrapping up here. So in terms of watching the lecture archives, look at the hybrid. Hybrid says less than half of the sessions that they watched the archives. Online, they had access to the archives as well. They were watching those class archives almost all the time. So they wanted that extra experience of seeing how it's done in the classroom and things like that. Now this is another interesting thing too. 100% attention. Did you give 100% attention when you were watching the archive, right? Almost all the time. But look at how many other applications they had running on their computer while they were watching the archive. So, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So, supposedly these new students are better at multitasking and things like that. And this says that they are, very engaged in all the various things that they're doing. This was something else that we were asking. I'm skipping over a couple of these in the interest of time. Sense of community. It was just a 1 for yes and a 2 for no. You can see that in the hybrid class, interestingly, they felt more community compared to the online class. Now, there were certainly some ways that we were trying to engage the online class, the discussions and things like that, but this is still an issue that I'm trying to make better in my classes. And this is, as we're wrapping up, these were some things that I wanted to look at as well. Was the instructor attentive? Again, 1 was yes and 2 was no. Even in the online class, they said that, at least for me, that I was attentive, that I was doing as much as I could to, hook them in and be there for them, answer questions and things like that. And if we look at the final question, would they take this class again in the same format, regardless of whether it was the online or the hybrid, and regardless of how they did in the class, they said that it basically worked for them. And so it didn't matter between the format, it seemed to be working for them as well. So that was, sorry, is marine biology stuff, manage the shrimp again, just making sure you're there. So anyway, the last couple slides is just doing the same summary as I was showing, but for me, it's been an interesting ride, if you will, to have this class and be able to compare it in the various formats that it's offered. And the Blackboard Collaborate is such a resource for me to allow me to do that, that I think it's allowing us as instructors to really make our online classes as good as, if not better than, those classes that are in-house. We don't have to gauge ourselves as, okay, is it as good as an in-house? We can make it better. And I think that there's lots of tools to be able to do that. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today. Okay, so I'm sorry we went a little bit long in terms of the process, but all my contact information is available through the website. So if you have any questions or anything like that, you want to discuss anything, please do email me. And if you have things you want to share, I'm very excited to talk to you guys too about it. So thanks for your attention today.